stand down. You get the ramp off, you pump it up, sir.
Tires.
Oh. Lift it up.
Pull one tire at the front.
Alright, so here today in the shop, we have a 90cc Pantera. It's a little Chinese clone dirt bike that they modeled after the Yamaha PW80. But instead of being 2-stroke, this one is 4-stroke. If you look over here, you can see we've got new front, rear tires, full exhaust system, and we have a whole new set of plastics. These plastics ran us about 60 bucks, but it's new fuel tank, rear tail section, seat, and front fender. The plastics are exactly the same as a PW80. You have to do a little modification with the bolting. Some of the bolts have to be egged out a little bit from what I've read, but other than that, everything's a pretty much direct bolt on. So we're going to go through, we're going to pull all the plastics off, and we'll go from there.
Yep.
All right, so we removed the plastics. It's fairly easy. You got 3 bolts for the rear, the seat itself. The main front piece goes in here, and then there's 2 bolts that stick up underneath. We'll go through and we'll show when we put the new plastics back on. The front here is easy as well. There's 1 main bolt here, and then there's 2 bolts here for that front fender. The only thing I don't like is that the front fender only covers the front part of the tire. It doesn't stop any mud from shooting up towards the back. So you can, they do have spots here to put a regular dirt bike fender on it, but we're not going to worry about that. We're not going to go too crazy mud bogging. So I guess our next challenge is to remove this exhaust. So if I can get my assistant Little Hands to come over with the drill. Get my camera girl to come over this way. So we got 2 bolts here. We're going to remove both of those. Yep. There you go. Oh. All right, so that's the main muffler. So these mufflers were modeled after the 2-stroke. That's why it has like this big expansion chamber here and a separate muffler. So it doesn't need all that. It's a 4-stroke. So go ahead, Little Hands. You can take that off. Keep going. So now, can you see that? We'll remove the bolts here from the head. Oops. And I'm going to take this thing and I'm going to chuck it in the trash where it belongs. Because that right there is robbing a lot of horsepower.
Jeez.
Our new fancy exhaust that we have is just like a pit bike exhaust. She looks nice and fancy, but it should give the dirt bike a little bit better performance. So we'll have to go through and adjust the strap on where we want the muffler and whatnot, but we'll figure all that stuff out as we go along. So we're going to go through, we're going to pop these valve caps off. We're going to check the clearance on the valves, make sure they're within spec. And then we're going to go in and put our carburetor in and new exhaust and just start throwing pieces together. All right, so we took off the air box. The screws are stripped out for it, so we're gonna get rid of the factory air box. I do have a pod filter to go on our new carburetor here. These are fairly straightforward to install. They're not hard. Although, our new one didn't come with any bolts. So we're gonna have to go over and ransack our bench over there to get a new one. All right, so I grabbed the new bolts. We're gonna go through and put on our new pieces here. Now, anybody that's ever worked on these little Honda clones, that's basically what this engine is. It's a Honda clone. Which is weird. They clone the Yamaha PW dirt bike itself. The engine is off of a Honda 110, 70, you know, all that fun stuff. So you always want to make sure you use one of these gaskets when you're putting these on. Make sure your O-rings are seated. So you're going to go through and just put it in place. Make sure you got everything lined up. This stuff doesn't have to be super tight, but tight enough. I'm not going to use Loctite. Alright, so that's on. We're going to now install our new throttle cable so we can hook up our new pieces for our carburetor. Okay. Alright, so we replaced the brake lever because the old one, they had cut the little knob off the end. So we replaced it with a new one. Unfortunately, the throttle cable that I ordered is way too long. You can see if we were to hook it up, how far it's going to be sticking out. I'm going to go through. I just ordered the new one. It should be here in a day or so. Gotta love Amazon Prime. So we'll get the new one. Unfortunately, the original start-stop switch here, they broke off the end here where the throttle cable would screw in. So I'm not going to be able to reuse this, and to order one, it's just cheaper to get the push button style of the stop switches. So it's like $7 or $8 that I ordered. That'll be here in the next couple days. So we're just going to keep on plugging along. I threw the carburetor on because I figure we can at least get the carburetor on when we set the fuel tank on, and we get it, you know, we can at least get it started to see how she sounds with the new exhaust and everything. So we're gonna keep plugging along, get everything done as far as we can until those pieces come in. All right, so went through, changed out the old cruddy tires over here. You can see where they're all dry rotted. The tube's still held there, but I'd rather not see somebody ride around on dry rotted tires like that. So we got brand new shoes for the old girl. The valve clearance was perfect. I didn't even adjust it. I just checked it. And we have our new exhaust mounted up. And she looks good. I'll put the spark plug in here in a few minutes. Might put the plastics on. We'll see. At least the rear plastics. I think with this on, she's going to look good. We'll, I'm going to put the spark plug in it. Put the gas tank on at least. And maybe we can get her to fire over and see how she sounds. Put the gas tank on it. Got everything set up. The kill switch works for now. We'll leave that alone. We're not going to be able to rev it, but we'll at least be able to see if it starts. We're going to put the choke on, and we're going to give her a nice little kick. See what happens. Idle's a little high, so we're going to idle it down a hair. But she sounds beautiful. No noise from the engine. I haven't changed the oil yet. That's still the original oil that was in it. But she sounds really good with this exhaust on it. I wish I had a throttle cable so we could open it up a little bit. But I think, all in all, this bike's gonna be fun. So let's do a quick kick through the gears. First, second, third, fourth. That's it. 4-speed. All the gears work. Tranny seems to be working good. But I think she's gonna be a fun little ripper. We'll let her run for a minute or two. We're gonna go through and mount up our plastics for the rear here and put on our front fender. And we're gonna go from there. All right, little hands. Give her a kick. First try. Good job, sir. All right, so we went through, put on our front fender, rear fender, seat, tanks mounted, exhaust is on, new tires. As you saw, she went through all the gears. We're gonna do an oil change later. Right now, we're waiting on the throttle cable and the new stop-start switch. So, I think this new exhaust looks way better than the old one. If you look at the old one here, it looks like it's a wannabe 2-stroke exhaust. They did like an expansion chamber here with the little muffler there. You know, so they copied it off of the PW80, the Yamaha PW80. So this gas tank is a little different than the stock one. The stock one, these ears were a little bit further and the back was a little bit further back. So as you can see, the old tank here, how the ears in the front are a little bit farther forward, where this tank, they're a little bit further back, and there's a little bit of gap here where this tank fills that in. If the rider of this bike doesn't like the way it looks, we'll paint the old tank.
I love it already.
But Little Hands says he loves it already. So as soon as we get the other parts in the next couple days, we'll throw everything together. Hopefully we can get a good test ride. And Little Hands, we'll get to have fun. All right, so we went through, we installed the new throttle cable here. It's still a little long, but it works. So then we replaced the old switch, which is now laying over there on the bench, for one of these push button style stop switches, which works out perfectly for this. Did have to cut the wires and rewire it. But we're gonna have Little Hands here. Go ahead and kick her over. Oh, kick her harder. Remember, one fluid motion. There you go. Try it again. There we go. All right, Little Hands, give us a little rev. Sounds good to me. All right, now hit our stop switch. Perfect. So we got everything together. We got our carburetor all together. I ended up taking the old jet out of the old carburetor and putting it in the new carburetor because the new one seemed just a little too small. You know, with the universal carburetors from eBay, they cover 50cc, 90, 110, 125, so they're just jetted random kind of, and then you have to kind of size it yourself. So I just used the old jet to make it work. But all in all, this bike is pretty much done. I don't think we're going to do any more to it. But we're going to do a test ride and we're going to see how she goes. And we're going to see how Little Hands here does on the ride. All right, so we're here at our testing grounds. We got Little Hands on the dirt bike. It's a semi-automatic. We stuck it in a second gear, so he'll be good to go. Not too fast, not too slow. But Little Hands, go ahead, give her a run. She good? Yep. All right, so little hand just proves he's gonna keep riding, keep testing her out. And if you like this kind of content, like, share, subscribe, hit the notification bell, and we'll keep doing what we're doing.